Welcome to part 2 of Renaissance Botany. In this episode, we'll talk about Renaissance gardening, specifically the Renaissance garden in Wolfenbüttel, North Germany, by Thomas Schelge. This is a garden of very ancient origin. It was first developed during the spring of 1589 during the Julian reign within Wolfenbüttel, when a very large garden fortress was being built at breakneck speed and was called the Strasbourg Plan. The initial design was developed by Daniel Speckten, a landscape architect of renown during that time period. It was designed to be a large castle right in the center, surrounded by canals almost 1 mile in length. The castle will be defended by 5 equidistant bastions, and further protected by 4 curved walls, linking the bastions face along in triangular shooting fields. The image can be seen on screen right now, in fact, on the bottom part of the image above. It was then denied, however, and was replaced by another plan, which was erected in 1560s to 1570s, and it was not a pleasure garden by any stretch of the imagination. It was later replaced by the Stockholm Plan, which rejigged the entire fortress, which can also be seen as an improvement of the initial form. The image is also seen as a third image on the screen. It is controversial whether or not it had any pleasure gardens, as Duke Henrik, the then current owner of that fortress, was a warrior guy, not a aristocrat type person. His son took after his father and continued the work of building up that fortress and garden. In 1578, first mention of a pleasure garden was actually being developed. Unfortunately, no illustrations of this garden were ever found. After the annexation of Kellenberg in 1584, the first known plan for a garden was found, specifically a plan to obtain various different types of plants. It was an acquisition form for the purchase of trees of sweet and bitter almond, quince, and red rose bushes. Other plants that were on the hit list were oranges, a greenhouse to grow said oranges, and it was likely the then owner, Landgrave William of Hessen, made it for his wife, due to her interest in medical and other herbs. Indeed, she did receive other plants of medical use, such as rosemary bushes, laurel trees, and artichoke plants, and was the chief physician within that region. Other ornamental plants were also found in that garden as well, such as canna lily, marvel of Peru, several different types of tulip, and various other ornamentals. Other plants were also found within that garden, such as cauliflower, maize, hot pepper, and several other species. During this time, the head gardener was Dietrich Veltheim, who was in charge of creating new gardens and running the architecture of the castle. His innovations were liming the fields, fertilizing, the creation of tunnel arbors for boundaries of the garden, as well as various types of fences, as well as the general enlargement of the garden. The neighboring citizens did not appreciate the enlargement of the garden, and so the successor of that duke, Henrik Julius, halted said project. Up until 1589, no evidence of decoration of the garden using iconography was found. Mr. Julius scratched out many of the main aesthetic features of the garden to make sure the garden remained economical, and instead focused on planting many more fruit trees and bushes within the walls of his residence, so that, in the case of a prolonged siege, there would be sufficient food to continue a large-scale war. This was labeled the Strasburger Plan. As such, he obtained 80 pot plants of the following 8 species: walnut tree, hazelnut tree, filberts, lime trees, elm trees, quince trees or bushes, and poplars and ash trees. Most of these plants were native to the Harz region within Germany. He would later more trees would be obtained, specifically of Spanish and English quinces, mirabelles, almonds, red and yellow plums, cherries, red and white mulberries, peach, and various types of apple tree, to further increase the fruit gardens within the castle. This duke also had several estates which had peach trees, all of which were grown, including within the castle fortress. However, no evidence of other exotic species were being grown during that time period by this specific Duke. Duke also had a very interesting quirk. He loved the color yellow. So most of the plants he ordered were of yellow coloration, either of yellow flower or yellow fruit. This is likely because the county of its birth had a symbolic color of yellow as its local colors, and its use in heraldry. This remained the mainstay for this garden for a long time afterwards, due to the fact that Duke Julius's successors did not have very much time or money in this garden, until the Danish troops laid siege on the Guelph residence within the 30 Years' War, during which time the Stockholm Plan was withdrawn. Another figure within the garden's history was Hans Ferdinand de Vries. He was the individual that developed the final design of the garden in 1583. He was a Flemish artist involved in the realization of the garden projects, started off by Diedrich Veltheim. The various architects took inspiration from many different locations, such as Italy, specifically the location where the Flemish people resided, due to one of the Flemish artists being the key architects of this garden. And the Duke did enjoy the water features of Italian gardening. Aspects of English garden was also added into the mix through the creation of grass benches and various features to attract birds, a common English innovation of that time period within the European location. There's also the appearance of weather vane, or something akin to that, within the plans for this German garden, a feature often found within royal gardens within medieval England, such as the gardens of King Henry VIII, as well as the gardens of the Hampton Court and Whitehall Palace. The presence of birds, both living and artificial, were also an English import, as the Germans were not big on that prior to this moment. And that about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to me on BitChute for a greater variety of content, 4 videos a week. And thank you to all my subscribers on both platforms. I appreciate it.